Hello? Hello? Can you hear me? Okay. I am talking. Hello, hello. 1, 2, 3, mic check. 1, 2, 3, 4, mic check. How much longer do I need to keep talking? Okay, cool. Will you let me? Can you give me like a 5, 2, 3, or like like a countdown? Hello, everyone. My name is Marquez, and I'm a graduate student at the MIT Media Lab. When the Black Lives Matter movement resurged with the murder of George Floyd a year ago, I became aware of the great power a collective can have to push their beliefs forward. A lot of times, this power manifests in the form of donations. Maybe you can't fly out to Minneapolis, Minnesota to protest in the streets, but you can donate to a fund that helps bail out minorities and underrepresented groups in that community when you expect protesters that you support to be arrested. In fact, this is exactly what happened. The Minnesota Freedom Fund received over $30 million of donations when the protests started. That is an immense amount of money that anyone would be happy to receive, especially if your annual budget was $200,000. But unfortunately, the Minnesota Freedom Fund had only one full-time employee and did not have the bandwidth or resources to manage the influx of funds. With less than $250,000 used in the ensuing month, and considering that of the 570 arrests from the protests in Minneapolis, all but 44 were dropped, and that there were over 17,000 arrests in 50 cities around the United States, a lot of people, including myself, thought that this was a poor allocation of resources for the movement. In fact, even Octavia Smith, the board president of the Minnesota Freedom Fund, admitted in an NPR interview that she wished the fund had received all that money. How could this be solved? Well, I'm talking at an Ethereum conference, so the answer might be a little bit obvious. Use a DAO. However, most DAOs that we see in action today act as VCs that expect a profit, or governance for protocols with tokens that have value based on the network effects of the protocol, or attempt to create somewhat convoluted token values based on the work done for the DAO. In a situation such as the resurgence of the Black Lives Matter movement, such schemes seem impractical when all people want to do is give money without expecting something in return. The idea is a simple one. Create a pool of funds associated to a new or resurgent social movement and create a token that allows people to vote on proposals. Instead of the Minnesota Freedom Fund receiving over $30 million, they could have proposed to receive the $250,000 they needed, and all the other bail funds around the country could have had the ability to receive money as well from the spurt of donations. And not just bail funds, but artists painting murals, organizations doing community outreach, and much more. Things could have been done with grassroots organizations that were trying to push forward the Black Lives Matter movement. I wanted to apply this idea and concept to something a little bit closer to home. And since I'm from Colombia and was born there, grew up there until I was 9 years old before I moved to the United States, I wanted to do something to aid in the efforts to help sustain peace there after the peace agreement that was signed between the government and the FARC, the largest guerrilla group there. I previously said it's a simple idea and it sounds great, but just like anything in the space, even simple things are not so simple when the world is catching up to the possibilities of Ethereum. How was I going to reach out to grassroots organizations that haven't heard from me? How will these they haven't even heard about cryptocurrencies or blockchains, but they didn't, though they wanted to maybe know. How would people that don't own cryptocurrencies, don't know what Ether or DAI is, donate and then vote on proposals? For the first question, I reached out to the United Nations Multi-Partner Trust Fund for Sustaining Peace in Colombia to see if they were interested in reaching out in running a pilot DAO with me. They already work a lot with grassroots organizations in Colombia and could help guide me through the communication with them, something that I really needed considering that my background is in computer science and software engineering and not in participatory research. With the help of the Multi-Partner Trust Fund, we contacted and agreed with 4 organizations to participate in the pilot. They are the Catacumbo Farmers Association, who are working on reconstructing the social fabric to a dignified living conditions and development for the people of Catacumbo, Colombia. The Association of Afro-Descendant Women of the North Cauca, who are working to defend the rights of Afro-Descendant women and communities in the north of Cauca. The Association of Ecological Producers of Planadas, who are designing their own farm conservation model to guarantee resources for future generations. And the Universidad La Sabana and Cumbuica, who are supporting peace building by strengthening one of the roots of social inequality in rural areas of Colombia, education. To partner with the UN and these organizations created another issue that wasn't mentioned before, and it's that they needed to receive US dollars for this pilot in order to give to the organizations and for them to be able to follow up on the use of funds. While different parts of the UN have been able to receive cryptocurrencies and donate it, such as UNICEF, because the UN is so decentralized, not every organization can manage them and knows how to handle cryptocurrencies, and this was one of them. So for this pilot, we needed to do that. This meant having to figure out how to donate to them in USD based on the final votes of the pilot proposals. At first, I thought it could be as simple as getting MIT to donate the converted funds, but MIT administration had questions about KYC and ML that made it difficult to do. I was fortunate to be able to reach out to the Blockchain Education Network, and they were more accommodating since they know the technology a lot more than MIT administration. And the flow of donations were resolved, obviously pending real world contracts that need to be signed between all parties. For the second question, I knew I had to educate organizations on blockchain networks and Ethereum. And it was really awesome that in the first video call I had with them, they were all very interested in learning more about it. So through workshops, I've been teaching them about Bitcoin, Ethereum, DAOs, and much more things that could be done with smart contracts. So that they know what they're getting into and that they can be able to continue with this after the pilot. For the third and final question, inspired by Collab 19, I've been working on a Telegram bot to help onboard people into the DAO so they can be guided on how to donate and vote. Because maybe people are interested in donating and voting, but for some reason are not interested in investing in Ethereum or investing in some other cryptocurrency. And so how can it be done as easily as possible for a non-technical community that is interested in a social movement? This is all something that I've been working on in the past 6 months, and we haven't launched yet, but when we do, GoFundpeace.org will be a DAO that aims to help sustain peace in Colombia by creating a pool of funds that helps grassroots organizations sustain peace in my home country. And hopefully other social movements around the world could use something like this to help them allocate their own resources in a progressively decentralized world. Thank you. Okay, so there's some questions. I'll answer them as I see them pop up in the chat. How many DAO members can you have on Ethereum? I guess the answer is as many as you want. It also depends on what you mean by DAO members. If you mean organizations or people that donate, and the answer is however many you want. For the pilot, we decided to go with 4, so we can kind of see where some issues might lie before we scale it up to more than 4 organizations. But the idea is that anyone can donate and anyone will be able to vote based on the allocation, based on their how many votes they have, to be able to kind of have like a say on what where a pool of funds goes. Yeah, this is there's just really not much reputation here from like the donation side, because there's no work being done by the donors other than I'm giving money, and so based on how much money I give, I get some token, and based on the amount of tokens that I have, I'm going to be able to vote. And so I guess that's one of the things I was talking about earlier regarding establishing like a DAO when like when a social movement kind of spurs up, which is like thinking about it in the sense of reputation and all these things, is really exciting as an idea, but at the moment maybe not practical when there's such a large barrier of entry when it comes to just like what is blockchain, what is Ethereum, how do I buy it, how do I donate, how do I vote? And so adding a layer of like, well, if you do a certain amount of work, then you have more reputation, you can vote more. It just complicates things a little bit more when the purpose of this is to get donations and give organizations that are doing things that you support in a movement that you support. Yeah. Yeah, so the on-ramp process is, uh, you know, if you know how to do it, it's pretty simple. You'll be able to it's a tab, it's on the website. You'll be able to just like donate. If you don't know anything, the thing that I mentioned was to create a Telegram bot that kind of gives you very just like piecemeal step-by-step process. Ask you a question and you answer it, and based on what you answer, it'll tell you what to do. The idea being that if you can give people kind of like all that information in like a one pager, but people have difficulty building an IKEA furniture, and so like now so following like this like guide, and so it's like same thing with any type of onboarding process in the space. It's like you can give it to them, and if you know it, you're like deep in the weeds. You're like, oh, it all makes sense, but you have no idea about any of it, then it doesn't make sense. And so approaching it in a way of doing it through a Telegram bot so they can do it, like little by little, like, uh, you know, if this, then that kind of stuff. And so they just see one thing at a time instead of like all the information at once that might overwhelm them. And again, it's a very simple process because there's no reputation, there's no kind of like layering on top. It's just figure out how to donate and figure out how and when to vote. Okay, everyone. Well, it was a pleasure talking to you guys and answering your questions. Thank you so much.